voz afinada, una voz afinada.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome, Tom and Kalissa, Landa.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome to Backstage at CapU.
It's been a while since we've been here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being part of our show. It's a really great excuse to see you guys, and it's really nice to be on stage and live in person. It's become tradition at Backstage at CapU for the Blindfold Challenge.
I'm really looking forward to being blindfolded.
I'm a little nervous about this challenge, but Tom's going to do great.
I don't know.
Well,
We'll
Corey, we lost sleep over it, so.
I might just
man.
lose sleep over it. I understand, Corey. I get it.
Yeah, we understand. Yeah.
It's just meant to be fun. It's a good excuse to listen to some music together. I had fun picking tunes, which I hope you like. Okay, track number 1.
Okay.
Something Mexican,
It's son Huasteco. So it's from the Huasteca region of Mexico.
it's a great tune.
So that's a jarana, a violin, and a guitarra de golpe.
I'm just loving the rhythm.
El gustito.
No? Told you he was going to be better at this than me. Who's that group of gals from New York that we saw in Arizona when we were on vacation?
It's not them.
Is that one of them singing though? It sounds like them.
So are we looking to see who's
Fantastic.
playing?
Who's the band?
But
Yeah.
the song's called El Gustito, right? Gustito.
Yeah.
El Gustito. Okay,
Yeah.
so I got the song. Is that the girl from Las Vegas singing?
Oh.
I don't know if she's with another band. That's not what this band is.
I'm just gonna bug you. So I don't know who it is,
Yeah.
but I can tell you what the song is,
Where it's from.
where it's from,
Okay.
and I can tell you the style of music is
beautiful.
son Huasteco. I can tell you that much.
So it's a band from New Mexico, actually.
Okay.
Really?
They're called Lone Pinon.
Oh, okay.
They're fairly new on the scene. It's from a 2019 album, Dale Vielo, a New Mexican string band.
Have you seen him?
No, Lone Pinon. So I had them booked for a January show,
bummer.
January of 21,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
of course they're not coming anytime
Yeah,
soon.
sure.
I just really loved the sound, and I thought when I heard them too that they were Mexican. So obviously heavily influenced by
Yeah, I mean, if you
by
go to New Mexico, there's a massive Mexican population and influence in the music, and not so much this kind of son Huasteco stuff, but more. There'd be a lot more norteña stuff there in
Lot
conjunto,
of
which is
accordions.
with the accordion. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you guys been to New Mexico? Have you-
Yeah,
It's been a while since we've toured there, but we did a bunch of shows there, a bunch of theaters. I love New Mexico. The last time we went, we were in Albuquerque with Locarno, and we
Yeah,
went
we
to
were at the-
play
at the biopark?
The biopark. It's basically a zoo.
It's like the Woodland Park Zoo.
Yeah, kind of like they do a concert
Yeah.
series like they do in Woodland Park Zoo, yeah. And so there's a stage, and then people set up lawn chairs and everything. And it was a beautiful day that day. So it was
Gorgeous.
August in New Mexico, so super hot, not a cloud in the sky, just gorgeous. And they had they gave us, because it was at a zoo, we did our sound check, and then after the sound check, we got to go feed the giraffes and pet some elephants, and it was really neat.
It's cool.
And then right before the gig, we had some dinner, and then they had a stage manager come to our dressing room and go, "Okay, guys, 45 minutes of showtime." She'd come back 15 minutes later, like 30 minutes showtime. Then with 5 minutes before showtime, they got us to come right behind, like where the curtain is, like instrument in hand, ready to go on. And in those 5 minutes, that beautiful blue sky, this little cloud moved in and then parked itself right on top of where we were, and then it turned
On top
gray.
of the sound booth, basically.
And then within minutes, it turned into a horrible storm.
Wow.
90 miles per hour wind.
Whoa.
The sound booth collapsed.
Wow.
Animals were injured, people were
Cottonwood
injured.
trees came down that were all throughout
But
the
it
park.
changed like that. It was crazy. So the gig got canceled.
Yeah.
So we never
First
got
one in 30 years. They
got
said.
canceled?
Yeah,
Really?
that
That's
had
crazy.
been
For
canceled.
weather.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went all the way down there and never got to play a single note.
I've been in Quebec, the Festival d'été in Quebec, and watched like weather just turn instantly. The Foo Fighters were about to play to, I don't know, like 100,000 people, and they played 3 or 4 songs, and the wind and rain were just hitting the band, and it had to be like super dangerous.
Oh, for sure.
And finally, they just shut it down. And
We just don't get that drastic weather here in Vancouver. Like, we're not used to that.
No,
where
it's
weather
just
changes so dramatically,
it's
so quickly.
way more gently.
We got out of it our lives, so that's good.
Yeah, that's good. We're happy.
Well,
yeah.
I take that first one as a win. You knew the song, just not the band's name. So.
Yeah, I knew the song
That's
and
one
I
for
knew
one.
some stuff. But
I'm
now we're
delighted
good.
though that we're discovering some new
for
music
sure.
here.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, this is
They
great.
sound great, don't they? I
They do.
really,
They
I
sound
love
fantastic.
them. I hope I can bring them here.
Yeah, me too.
One day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, track number 2.
That's in Cascabel. Right song, right? Cascabel. Yeah.
It is,
I
yeah.
love that part.
So this is part of the Son Jarocho repertoire of Veracruz.
We played this one actually with Locarno. Yeah. Not quite like this, a little different. Waiting to hear the singer.
En una flor de amapola, en una flor de amapola vi llorar un cascabel, vi llorar un cascabel, en una flor de amapola. En una flor de amapola vi llorar un cascabel.
Tereso Vega, 100%. That's Son de Madera.
Got it.
Is it Son de Madera? Okay, yeah.
I was thinking, I was like, that
That's
sounds
not
like.
Ramon, but that's definitely Tereso, yeah. So the guy that
Are
said the
you
call
sure?
back, that's not Ramon.
That guy.
One of my favorite musicians of all time. The guy that's singing there. His jarana playing is second to none, and his voice just completely says Mexico, Son Jarocho. Like, you know when someone like Paul
Encompasses
Brady
you.
encompasses like Ireland to me, this guy encompasses Mexico to me. Yeah.
So
And
fun.
he's the sweetest man you've ever met.
Super nice guy.
Like then he stayed at our house. He invited us to his son's wedding. Like just lovely human.
Yeah.
So it's from the 2009 album Son de mi Tierra.
Yeah.
They're based in Veracruz.
Yeah,
So that's
Jalapa.
very traditional.
Very traditional.
They're very
Yeah.
traditional because there's a lot of bands that are influenced by Son Jarocho, but they do their own take on it. And
Well, and so Tereso is from the Vega family, and the Vega family are like to me what.
They're like royalty of
They're
Son
like Son
Jarocho.
Jarocho
Yeah.
royalty, exactly. And nieces and nephews and grandchildren and like grandparents, they all have different little groups. So they're lovely humans, but that voice and that tradition is just so
He's,
rich.
Like I said, one of my favorite musicians of all time.
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
so you've been influenced by Son Jarocho.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Son Jarocho what's happening with Son Jarocho in Mexico has been really interesting because it was, when I was growing up, it was the music of your parents. And now, very much like bluegrass and old-time music, there is a lot of young people that are interested. And then what's happened in the States is really interesting because they're playing, Son Jarocho has become very popular with young people as well. It's different and not as traditional as they played in maybe Veracruz, but it's also synonymous with social justice. And so Las Cafeteras being a prime example of message almost first, and music right underneath there. But the movement has become synonymous with social justice, which is amazing. Yeah. And there's so many people, especially in the LA area, like California, so many amazing Son Jarocho musicians. Yeah.
Have you traveled through Veracruz? Do you know the area?
Yeah, we have. We did. Locarno was there about 3 or 4 years ago for a gig. And then I actually studied in Jalapa, which is where Son de Madera is from. And I got a Canada Council grant back in mid-2000s to go study jarana. So I studied with the guys from Son de Madera.
So you know these. And
Yeah.
didn't they come to the
They
folk
came to the World Music
Festival?
Festival and Folk Festival, yeah.
Okay.
I need a buzzer. Yeah, I got this.
Here's
right.
track 3.
Okay.
Cajon,
That's a donkey jaw.
or is this Los Cafeteros doing La Bamba?
just mentioned Las Cafeteras as a prime example of young people being influenced by Son Jarocho and taking up the cause of social justice.
You know what? And also, I love those people as human beings. And my favorite memory of those guys is we brought them up to do the festival, and afterwards, you and I were promoting the show, and we had a lot of stuff to pack out. So all our gear, because we played together, but also
PA
all the stuff
from
from the PA and the backstage rider, and those guys were leaving and they'd done their gig and they saw us loading out and they said, "Oh, you guys need a hand," and they all helped.
Yeah.
And I just think that's one of the most lovely things for the band, to help out the promoters load out, and it really made me appreciate them as people even more. They're really lovely.
Oh, it was a
lovely
really
folks.
great gig at the Imperial,
Yeah.
one of the best.
Yeah.
And I'll remember. I remember the end of the night. I remember the whole night, but the end of the night is a good memory. We were getting kicked out. Like
I remember,
we had stayed as long as we
closed
could
the bar,
possibly
yeah.
stay,
Yeah.
and the security guy came and said, "Okay, you guys need to leave now." Yeah.
Time to go.
No 5-minute warning, just
Yeah.
now. And you were playing with one of the last
what's his
Caf-
name? Not
what's
Jose,
his
but
name?
it's
And
The guy
Choco.
in Quinto?
Yeah.
and you were just
Yeah.
like playing this duet together, really intense and just like totally into it. And just as soon as you got kicked out, you guys just turned on a dime and just walked out without missing a beat. Like you just kept playing all the way out till you got kicked out of the Imperial.
Choco Yotin is a phenomenal musician. That
Oh,
guy's
man.
really good, and it was a real pleasure to play with him.
So Las Cafeteras, yes, who are out of East LA.
One of my favorite places.
They are definitely influenced by San Jarocho and La
100%.
Bamba. Like, tell me, you know, what this tune is so famous.
Yeah, it's believed that La Bamba was originally, so one of the things that is not widely known about Mexico is that there was a very big slave trade in Mexico. And Veracruz is one of the biggest ports in the Americas, so a lot of slaves came in through the port of Veracruz. And Son Jarocho is unique in that the music is derived from, has some Arabic sort of flavor, Spanish, and then it would have come over in what there were like vihuelas or baroque guitars. They turn into jaranas. So, and then you add the
That's where you get
indigenous.
the strumming from,
The strumming from,
right?
yeah.
So as if it's flamenco. Sorry, I'm
No,
totally
that's okay.
interrupting.
Yeah, it's okay.
No,
Yeah.
just to add that's where you get that kind of that really percussive flamenco
This
style
thick kind of
strumming.
strumming,
Yeah, on the little guitars. Sorry.
But
keep
no, it's
going.
okay. But it also has a lot of Afro influences, and that's because of the slave trade. But anyway, it's believed that La Bamba was an old slave song that they would presumably sing in the fields. And so a lot of Son Jarocho, like African music, has the call and answer. So we've heard it already 2 or 3 times. And that tradition is 100% derived from African tradition. So La Bamba is probably, so it is believed that it was is an old slave song, and it's probably after La Cucaracha and Cielito Lindo, probably the biggest Mexican musical export, you know?
Thanks to Richie Valens.
Richie Valens.
Richie Valens, yeah.
But also, just to add to that, the rhythmic structures of traditional Mexican music, or what we know as traditional Mexican music, is so deeply rooted in Africa, with these interesting ways that the music will go between like a 6/8 dakata dakata dakata, kind of like that, or dun 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 dakata dakata, right? So that kind of thing, and it plays back and forth depending on what part of the song you're playing or what instrument you're playing. So sometimes like a bass will be going dun 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 dun, but Tom's going brakata brakata, right? So like it's just it's a really interesting thing that you can also hear in present day African music as well, right?
Cuban music
and
as well.
Cuban music as well, but anywhere, which is pretty much the entire planet where there's African influence. You can find those types of rhythm, and I think that's something that's really interesting that connects so many different genres of music.
Yeah.
Just
That's
on a
what makes
global
it
scale.
so rich and interesting.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
This Latin Playboys.
Sounds like Tom Waits produced this album.
I've made way too easy a blindfold test for you guys, clearly.
I love the Latin Playboys, and so that man's got my favorite voice of all time right about there. The production is so dope. The Latin Playboys are totally a musician's band. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think they're really known much at all, really, outside of just musicians digging their work.
Of course, I had to play something with David Hidalgo because we have some nice David Hidalgo stories to share.
He played my guitar.
He played your guitar.
He held my baby.
Exactly.
That's right.
So it was with Louis Perez, Mitchell Froome, and Chad Blake. Which is sort of a producing team. Yeah. One critic called it a twisted and avant-garde take on roots music, which I think kind of sums it up well. But I had this really nice quote from Chad Blake about the project. He said, most of the LP album was recorded by David Hidalgo on 4-track cassette.
That's right.
Cool.
David was fired up with ideas and started recording on a very badly out of alignment 4-track. He recorded late nights in his kitchen using utensils for percussion and in his attic. A few months later, he gave Mitchell a cassette of rough mixes, all instrumental. We listened at the studio and just about wept. Thought it was beautiful. Had a talk with Dave and Louie and decided to make it an album from 1994. So we're going back quite a ways. So David Hidalgo is probably best known for?
Well, he's best known for his work with Los Lobos, but he's also done the Latin Playboys, and then him and Louie have, I believe, one solo album that they've done together, maybe two. But of course, David has done projects with many different people. He sits in with members of the Grateful Dead. He's done the thing with Mark Ribot. He's done a number of different things.
Tom Waits
sits in with bands such as Locarno.
Locarno, yeah. I mean, you're kind of playing all of my favorite music here, but Los Lobos have been probably my biggest musical influence, and David is they're all amazing musicians, but David is such a gifted musician. Plays everything under the sun. He plays accordion, he plays fiddle, he plays guitars, and
sings like a bird.
And what's really cool about those guys is they can play son jarocho and mariachi music and norteña and cumbia and all this stuff, and it sounds completely legitimate. And then they can sound like Neil Young and Crazy Horse the next song, and then they can sound like, a blues band the next, and rock and pop and
versatile
roots music, and so versatile, but also just interesting. That'd be as if U2, does what they do, and then the next song they all take out fiddles and bagpipes or uilleann pipes and whistles and become a traditional Irish band. It's kind of that would be the equivalent, Yeah.
When we did Wicked Grin, which was our Tom Waits tribute, like every year, Steve and I put together a show with locals, and we invite people from out of town. And John Hammond was the whole inspiration, because Wicked Grin was his album dedicated to Tom Waits covers, produced by Tom Waits.
That's amazing, yeah.
And we knew Hidalgo had worked with John Hammond and Tom Waits, so he seemed like a great choice if we could only get him. He's very busy with Los Lobos. He knows John Hammond, so he was comfy that John was going to be part of the project, and he said yes, so we were thrilled. And when it came time to have Mark Ribot back in our North Shore Jazz series, I found out that he was doing a duo thing with David Hidalgo. So David agreed to be part of that show as well. And you guys came to this show, even though your baby Juno, lovely baby daughter, was 1 week old. It was 2 years ago.
That's how much we love David Hidalgo, that we came, and Mark Ribot.
Well, so David Hidalgo, though, is probably my biggest influence in terms of any of the Mexican sounding stuff. I mean, I love everything that he does, don't get me wrong, but I don't know if I should be admitting this, but I have ripped off so many of his licks that he has played, just because
I'm sure
I think
he'd be flattered by hearing that.
Fascinating, like the structure of them and just what I'm assuming he's, thinking while he's making up these little bits and pieces in songs. I love it. But seeing him here with Marc Ribot at that show was so amazing. So like you said, I just had a baby like a week ago.
Juno
a week
was
before.
so well behaved.
She slept
She
through
slept
most
the
of
whole
it.
thing.
Well, she's so well behaved.
Although,
But my memory after the show was like you met David,
Yeah.
and he's this big guy, like,
Yeah.
but he's like bouncing Juno, and he's like totally in his happy place with this one-week-old baby, and you guys were totally comfortable just handing over Juno to David.
we had a conversation, I think just there on stage, where I asked him about his family, and he said that he's got quite a big family. I said, well, you know, you're a family man. Here, take a baby.
You're a dad. Here, have a baby.
Exactly. Yeah, and he just kind of went, yeah, and took Juno, and Juno was just, you know, itty bitty. But yeah, she had a nap through most of the show, and only woke up once when Marc Ribot turned up his amp and was playing electric
right.
guitar. You remember that?
Yeah, it was super loud all of a
He
sudden.
all of a sudden just went from like a 2 to a 10, and she started wailing, and we were at the back of the auditorium making a quick exit, trying to make a quick exit, and I lifted up her little bassinet that she was in, and I kind of fumbled for a second, and all of a sudden this lovely gentleman with a soft-spoken, beautiful British accent
Yeah, I know
swoops
this
in
is.
beside me and goes, can I help you, miss? It looks really heavy. And I kind of went, yeah, and I, you know, trying not to disrupt the rest of the audience, and I turn around, and I nearly dropped my daughter because who was standing there but everyone's favorite?
The rock god himself,
Robert Plant.
Robert Plant, came to the show.
Yeah.
So Juno met Marc Ribot, David Hidalgo, and Robert Plant
All in a
her
night.
First week of
At
life.
her first concert.
At her very
concert.
first concert.
Gosh,
Not
that's,
bad.
That's
Not bad, yeah. Yeah.
Well, Robert Plant was in town. It was Jazz Festival week. He had a show at the Queen Elizabeth the next night. I get a call wondering if I have room for 8 VIPs, and I'm like, well, they better be important VIPs. And they said, yeah, they're pretty important. I said, well, who is it? He's like, it's Robert Plant and his entire band want to come to the Ribot Hidalgo show. And I'm like, great, yeah, we'll make room for that.
That's amazing. Well, I know he's a big fan of Hidalgo.
He said he's
and
a huge
Ribot.
fan. He said, so I got to talk with Robert Plant, super great guy, so friendly, down to
Lovely.
earth.
Liz wanted to get a photo, and I said, "Oh, let's not bug him." And then
He's
then he
here
went
on
to
a
the
night
lobby and got
out.
photos done with everyone down there. I'm sorry.
I made
I owe you a photo with
His
David.
bodyguard was a little nervous because Robert's just too friendly for his comfort
He's
level.
So lovely, yeah.
Yeah.
He's really
Yeah.
sweet.
But he
he's
said David
definitely-
Hidalgo is his favorite singer.
Yeah.
So that's coming from Robert Plant, who's considered probably the great voice of rock and roll, right?
For
one,
sure.
one of the great voices.
Well, he covered Los Lobos tune on his solo record.
And Marc Ribot had worked with Robert Plant on
Right.
the Alison Krauss
Yeah.
album. I'm
That's
forgetting
right.
the name. But
Yeah.
Well, and you know, that's something that's really interesting about Robert Plant is that he continues to make music that is interesting and is so different from, like, each
What
album
Zeppelin did, yeah.
that he puts out is different from the last.
yeah.
Right? And so it remains relevant. It's not like he is
He's
a
a real
rock and
music
roll
fan,
dinosaur that
yeah.
has just stayed there playing classic rock. I mean, I'm a huge Zeppelin fan, massive, but the things that he has done since then, I just think are phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know,
He definitely could have rested on his laurels, and
Oh,
he hasn't. He's kept on
easily,
doing
yeah.
cool things. Yeah.
yeah. So that's a night I don't think any of us are
No. Super
going to
fun.
regret,
No.
going to forget anytime soon.
Or
yeah.
regret.
Yeah.
No, indeed. No, it's up there.
I just hope
It was an
Juno
epic
believes
night.
us when she's a teenager. You know.
But we're going to end with your music. So
Okay.
tell us what we're going to hear.
Well, we've been focusing so much on, or talking a lot about Latin music and the Locarno connection and Son Jarocho. So we'll play you a song from the Son Jarocho repertoire. It's a folk song from Veracruz called La Manta.
para cantar la manta, y para cantar la manta, y para cantar la manta se necesita una voz afinada, una voz afinada, una voz afinada y otra cosita y otra cosita. Y si mariquita sí, no mariquita no. Primero dices que sí, luego que no, luego que no. ¿Y qué quieres que te traiga? ¿Y qué quieres que te traiga? ¿Y qué quieres que te traiga desde Sevilla, desde Sevilla? Una peineta de oro, una peineta de oro, una peineta de oro y una vajilla y una vajilla. Y si mariquita sí, no mariquita no. Primero dices que sí, luego que no, luego que no. Estando entre las mujeres, estando entre las mujeres, estando entre las mujeres, todo me encanta, todo me encanta. Y vámonos a acostar, de sueño me estoy cayendo. Tú llevarás la manta, la linda manta que estás tejiendo. Y si mariquita sí, y no mariquita no. Primero dices que sí, luego que no, luego que no. Para cantar la manta, y para cantar la manta, y para cantar la manta se necesita una voz afinada, una voz afinada, una voz afinada y otra cosita y otra cosita. Y si mariquita sí, no mariquita no. Primero dices que sí, luego que no, luego que no. Y si mariquita sí, no mariquita no. Primero dices que sí, luego que no, luego que no.
Thanks.